Well, I thought about it, and I've made so many different decisions. First, it was going to be Spy Master of Trest. Then it was going to be America Ray Barrett. But I think I've decided, no. We're going to talk about a single white woman today and her female companion. Female companion? I mean, canine companion. I get those mixed up all the time. Here we are. So we have Silvar, Devourer of the Free, companion. Partner with Trynn, Champion of the Free. So you get two fucking commanders. It's fucking sweet. What a set. Ikoria, it's Menace, it's a Cat Nightmare. And, damn. Sacrifice a human. Put a +1/+1 counter on Silvar. He becomes indestructible. What? Until end of turn. That's crazy. He's some Cat Nightmare 4/2. He's not a dog. Might as well be a dog. Because now we have Trynn, the white part. So that was black-red. This is white. It's Mardu colors. She's pretty strong. She's a 3/3 for 4. So she's got to partner with Silvar. And the beginning of your end step, if you attacked this turn, create a 1/1 human soldier token. Creature token. It was a human creature. You assumed that. Did you? Here we go. Because we got General Kudro Draneth. What a guy. What does he do? Other humans you control get +1/+1 whenever Kudro or Draneth or another human enters the battlefield under your control. Exile target card from an opponent's graveyard. That's useless. Sacrifice 2 humans. Destroy target creature with power 4 or greater, but you pay 2. And sacrifice 2 humans. Oh, so he's just like the same shit. It's okay, he's a human. Here's another human. Priest of Urabrask. A human cleric. When he enters the battlefield, you get 3 mana. It's 2/1. I don't know why I made this. I heard someone say, it's America, I can say whatever I want, free speech. It's not true. You can't say whatever you fucking want. You never could. He's a human cleric minion. Priest of Gix enters with battlefield, add 3 mana to your mana pool. He's a 2/1 for 3. He's a red version, he's a black version. That's crazy. They have 2 different versions? And they're both humans? This one's a minion though. That makes him better. Because now we got Call of the Coppercoats. Sensing a pattern that you strive. The spell costs 2 more with white, instant, to cast for each target beyond the first. Isn't that another mechanic? Strive? Doesn't sound right. Choose any number of targets, opponent, creature, X +1/+1 creature, soldier, tokens, where X is the number of creatures those opponents control. Choose any number of targets, target opponents. Okay, so you get like 1 opponent, 2 opponent, 3 opponent, 4 opponents. Create X1/1 human creatures tokens, where X is the number of creatures those opponents control. He keeps ramping up. That's good. So you pick the biggest guy. If everyone's got a big army, you pick everybody. Nice. More humans. Here's another human. Hedron Field Purist. Oh, that's a crazy card. It's from Zendikar. He levels up. It's pretty crap. So for 3, he enters. He's a 0/3 crap monster, human cleric. And then you pay 1/4. Pay 3 mana, he becomes level 1 through 4. So if you have 1 level counter or 4 level counters, he's this guy. If a source would deal damage to you or a creature you control, prevent 1 of that damage. So 1/4, who does that? Neat. And then if you give him 1 more level counter, so you spend like 3 mana on him, and every level counter is another 3. So you got nothing else to spend the mana on. You spend it up to his level 5. If a source would deal damage you control to a creature... If a source would deal damage to you or a creature you control, prevent 2 of that damage. 2/5. Nice. 2/5 who prevents 2 damage now. It's not indestructible. Might as well just pay 6 to make a creature indestructible. Right? It's the new set. That's the new shit. Like Verge Rangers. For 3, first strike, look at the top card of your library at any time. Wow, so it's like a Naya Druids. As long as the opponent controls more lands than you may play lands from the top of your library. Oh, it's pretty fucking sweet. That's super... the same set too. Starting to see a pattern. And here we have a Taurean Mauler. Changeling. Where an opponent casts a spell, you may put a +1/+1 counter on Taurean Mauler. For 3, he's a 2/2 shapeshifter, so he's even a human, he's also a monster. No, I don't believe that. That's crazy. Shapeshifters are broken. Changeling? No way. Because now we got Blood-Soaked Champion. He's a champion who's blood-soaked. He's Human Warrior, 2/1. Can't be blocked. He can't block. He just doesn't block. He attacks, he doesn't block. For 1. You've raid, so that means if you attacked, return Blood-Soaked Champion from your graveyard to the battlefield. Activate this only if you attacked this turn. Pay 2. Yeah, so he always attacks. You attack, and then he comes back, and your second main phase. And then upturn, attack, he dies. I guess, because now we got another guy who dies, Sanger Autocrat. He's a human, he makes 0/1 black surf creature tokens. Pretty sure they updated it to humans, so he just makes like a bunch of humans. When he dies, remove all surf tokens. So, damn, your changeling's gonna die if he dies. This game sucks. What is this? Alessia who smiles at death? First strike, whenever Alessia attacks. You may pay 2, white or black, not red, so she's a Mardu card. If you do, return target creature card with power 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped and attacking. Oh, like the Mardu guy. Like this one. Or this guy. Just get them all back. This guy. Yeah, this guy. Not this guy. This guy. And we got Fiend Hunter. So he's a 1/3. Oh, this guy. When Fiend Hunter enters the battlefield, exile another target creature. When Fiend Hunter enters the battlefield, exile other target creatures. He does that exiling thing. There's a bunch of rule stuff around it. I don't care, but it's important. And here we have Archetype of Courage. He's 3 cost. Enchantment creature, human soldier. Creatures you control at first strike. 2/2. Creatures your opponents control lose first strike and can't gain first strike. That's not fair. That's a good card. You should keep that. You should have increasing devotion as well. 5 mana, create 5 white human tokens. If the spell was cast from your graveyard, make 10. Flashback for 9. 7, 8, 9, yeah. It's okay. It's better mana production for creatures. Like Knight of the White Orchid. He makes mana, so you get 2 mana. He's a 2/2 first strike. So at the time of printing of his original shit, that was like banger. Then he had, when he enters the battlefield, if an opponent controls more lands, you get a plains and put it on the battlefield. And with this new game, there's lots of new plains. The more the game goes on, the more basic plane types they'll make. Basic, all types of planes. Lena, Selfless Champion, 6 mana, that's expensive. For a 3/3, oof. When Lena, champion of battlefield, enters the battlefield, create 1/1 Night Soldier creature tokens for each non-token you control. So all your guys, like, she makes a double. Sacrifice Lena. Creatures you control with power less than Lena power gain indestructible. I've seen better indestructible shit. Like, Chainer, Nightmare Adept. I see, so you're like, bring her back with this. I did make the deck, by the way. So for 4, he's a black-red creature for 3/2. Discard a card. You may cast a creature card from your graveyard this turn. Activate this ability only once each turn. Whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, if you didn't cast it from your graveyard, or if you didn't cast it from your hand, so it wants to be cast from the graveyard, it gains haste until your next turn. It gains haste until your next turn? Yeah. What? Usually sacrifice it. Kelsey and the Plague? Oof. This guy's no fun. He's Human Assassin. Vigilance Haste. Maybe I should do something else like this. He just gets plague counters for +1/+1 for each counter he has. Experience counter. Kelsian deals 1 damage to target creature you don't control. When that creature dies this turn, you get an experience counter. Yeah, he's good. He's really good. But it's not my favorite. Because we got Massacre Girl next. Now she's the best. Because she enters the battlefield. Each other creature gets -1/-1 until the end of turn. Whenever a creature dies this turn, each other creature other than Massacre Girl gets -1/-1 until end of turn. So she hits, kills everything. It's all good. Like Massacre Worm. 5 mana, 4. Here we have Jurian Kudro. I guess she's related to the General Kudro. And she enters the battlefield. Create a 1/1 human creature soldier token for each time you've cast your commander from the command zone this game. Other human you control get +2/+0. So with your double commander, you cast like 4, 5, 9, 8, 20 times. Here we got like a werewolf. That's cool. It's a human rogue werewolf haste. At the beginning of each upkeep, if no spells were cast last turn, transform Gyre Reach Bandit, and I'm not going to do that. Fuck that. That's tedious, because now we got Brutal Cathar, who is a 3-cost, 2/2 white creature. Oh, he's also a werewolf, so when this creature enters the battlefield, transform it into Brutal Cathar, exile creature an opponent controls until this creature leaves the battlefield. And then you flip them. It's fucking sick art. Why don't they make more shit like this? And we got the Celestis. That's cool. It's a giant like sundial. Makes like mana. Tap, add 1 mana of any color. It's a 3-cost legendary artifact. If it's neither day or night, it becomes day. If the Celestis enters battlefield, pay 3, tap it. If it's night, it becomes day. Otherwise, it becomes night. Activate only as a sorcery. When day becomes night or night becomes day, you gain 1 life. You may draw a card. If you do, discard a card. It's like looting. Getting you. It's flavorful because it transforms Brutal Cathar. You can also control the mana with, or not mana, the day-night cycle if your opponent cares. They don't give a shit. They're playing Monarch. Gyre Reach Bandit. You know, the rules should say that it's the same fucking thing. Just transform cards. When it turns into day or night, transform all face-up cards to their face down. That'd have been a good rule. Blade of Selves. Equipped creature has Myriad. There you go. 4 2-cost equipment. Equipped for 4. Hammer of Perforos. Enters legendary artifact. Enchantment. Creatures you control have haste for 3 red. And 1 colorless. 2 red, 1 colorless. Pay 2 red, 1 red. I'm going to try that again. I'm going to say pay 2 colorless, pay 1 red. Sacrifice a land. Put a 3/3 colorless golem enchantment artifact creature token onto the battlefield. And this makes more creatures for you. But really, the haste is the main thing. If you're making a bunch of 1/1s, they're usually not going to have haste. So when you play Bone Horde, it's a living weapon. And now it has haste. So a equipped creature has +1/+1 for each creature in all graveyards. So for each creature, it's X. X equals the number of creatures in graveyard. So for 4, comes in the battlefield, already can attack if you got Hammer or Perforos. You know, just for fun. Because we got Sword of the Animist, legendary artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +1/+1. When equipped creature attacks, you may search your library for a basic land card, put it on the battlefield tap, then shuffle your library. You need to do that. You need to find all your mana, because Skyclave Relic, yeah, that's a good call. It has Kicker 3, indestructible. When Skyclave Relic enters, if it was kicked, make 2 tapped token copies of Skyclave. Tap to add 1 mana of any color. Ooh. No good. Because you got Soul Ring. Every deck needs Soul Ring. You got Blasphemous Act. Deal everything 13 damage, cost 1 less for each creature on the field. It's 7 for sorcery. Yeah, I remember that. Duretti, Scrap Savant, he's a Planeswalker. Planeswalkers don't matter anymore. He can be a commander, that's cool. We got a Spectral Lynx here. It's a cat for 2, it's a 2/1. For black, regenerated, protection from green. You know, you can have a Cleansing Nova for 5, destroy all creatures, destroy all artifacts and enchantments, choose one. That's a good effect. It's like a one-sided board wipe if you need it. Destroy all creatures with toughness 4 or greater for 3 on Citywide Bust. I'm going over these cards for myself. I just love the card game. So when I play March of the Souls for 5 mana, destroy all creatures, they can't be regenerated. For each creature destroyed this way, its controller puts up 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying into play. There's better card destruction. There is. I just want to play the cards I want to play. It's true. You know, you don't always play optimally. You put a Soul Ring in, but you also play a Angel of Sanctions for 5, creature angel, flying, 3/4. When Angel of Sanction enters the battlefield, you may exile target non-land permanent an opponent controls until Angel of Sanction leaves the battlefield, and you embalm so it does it again. Speaking of which, they just put embalm on an artifact, so that means you can make creatures embalmed at will, like we expected. That's crazy good. Because we got Blind Obedience. It has Extort. Artifact and creatures your opponents control enter the battlefield tapped. Good card. Damn. Cleric class. If you would gain life, gain that much life +1 instead. Whenever you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. When this class becomes level 3, return target creature from your graveyard to the battlefield. You gain life equal to that, to its toughness. It's okay. I'm sure there's an infinite combo with every life gain effect. Because you got Winds of Wrath. Destroy all creatures with no enchantments on them. Those creatures cannot be regenerated this turn. Well, it's something that specifies regenerate. That's crazy. Or West Coast Explorer. For 2, it's a 2/2 Cat Scout, so it's not a human. When a West Coast Explorer enters the battlefield, search your library for up to X Planes cards, where X is the number of players who control more lands than you. Reveal these cards, put them to your hand, then shuffle your library. There's a theme with grabbing planes. So here we have a Fanatical Devotion, sacrifice a creature, regenerate target creature. You might not have Silvar on the field, but you want to have something that uses your tokens for effects. This will do that. Trynn, you also want to keep her alive. Cards like Day of Judgment say destroy all creatures. It doesn't say destroy all creatures, they can't be regenerated, so Fanatical Devotion, just useful. Because now we have Swords to Plowshares, basic exile card. Exile target creature, its controller gains that much life due to its power. You got Quarantine Field. It's supposed to destroy Eldrazi in this picture, but it's like for 2 white mana and 2X. Quarantine Field is an enchantment that says Quarantine Field enters the battlefield with X isolation counters on it. When Quarantine Field enters the battlefield, for each isolation counter on it, exile up to 1 target creature non-land permanent an opponent controls until Quarantine Field leaves the battlefield. Does that make sense? When Quarantine Field enters the battlefield, for each isolation counter on it, exile up to 1 target non-land permanent an opponent controls until Quarantine Field leaves the battlefield. Well, it's like a mass exiling. Oh, but the isolation counters only represent how many creatures are on it. What happens if you remove those isolation counters on it? Vampire Hexmage would be good to remove that shit. So, like, Consume the Meek, destroy all creatures with converted mana cost 3 or less that can't be regenerated. That's specifically targeting, Fanatical Devotion type cards. All your tokens, they're not going to be regenerated because they're mana cost 3 or less, so you would sacrifice them for bigger cards. Like a Smothering Abomination, which is a 4-cost Eldrazi. It has Devoid, even though it's pay mana black. At the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice a creature. Whenever you sacrifice a creature, draw a card. So all your sacrifice outlets now become draw outlets as well for creatures like Reassembling Skeleton. For 2, it's a 1/1 Skeleton Warrior. Return Reassembling Skeleton from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped for 2 more mana. So just keep sacrificing and bringing them back. With cards in your graveyard, you'll have enough mana for Cabal Ritual, For 2 mana, it adds 3 mana to your mana pool. Or if you have Threshold, which is 7 cards in your graveyard or more, it adds 5 mana to your mana pool. Bringing you up to bring out Silvar right away on turn 2. If that was possible, with the Yawgmoth's Vial offering a legendary sorcery, so you need a legendary in play to play it, whether it's a creature or planeswalker, not legendary artifact, when up to 1 target creature or planeswalker card from your graveyard from the battlefield enters your control. No, put up to 1 target creature or planeswalker from your card from your graveyard to the battlefield under your control. Destroy up to 1 target creature or planeswalker. Exile Yawgmoth's Vial offering. Why you always gotta exile it after? Wasn't that good? Fumarole does the same thing. Like, Extinction Event is a 4-cost sorcery. Choose odd or even. Exile each creature with converted mana cost of the chosen value. But here we go, we're all halfway through with Painful Truths. 3 mana cost, sorcery with converge, so you have to pay 3 to get the maximum value. Draw X cards, lose X life, where X is the number of colors of mana spent to cast Painful Truths. So you just draw 3 cards for 3, lose 3 life. Brutal Horde Chief would be a card to draw, because he's an Orc Warrior. Whenever a creature you control attacks, defending player loses 1 life for each, and you gain 1 life. So, like, yeah, for whenever a creature you control attacks. So, is it all creatures, or just during your attack phase they just lose 1? Needs clarifying. Because for 5, creatures your opponents control cannot block this turn if able, and you choose how those creatures block. No, creatures your opponents control block this turn if able. You choose how they block. That's even better, because we got Vampire Hexmage to get rid of all their bullshit. We want to remove all the good cards. Counters. We don't want them to have +1/+1 counters on them. Ink Eyes, Servant of the Oni. One of my favorite Rat Ninja legendary creatures. For 6 mana, it's a 5/4, or you ninjutsu for 5, as you know when you attack you ninjutsu. Whenever Ink Eyes, Servant of the Oni deals combat damage to a player, you may put target creature card from that player's graveyard onto the battlefield under your control, and for 2, regenerate. So, it steals a card from their graveyard, and Heartless Summoning, creatures your spells cast cost 2 less. Creature spells you cast cost 2 less to cast. Creatures you control get -1/-1 for 2. It just, you may think it's no good with all the 1/1 creatures, but as well we have no way to make +1/+1 counters, because we have Pestilence. At the end of each turn, if no creatures are in play, sacrifice Pestilence. Pestilence pays 1 red or 1 black. It looks pretty red. Pay 1 black. Pestilence deals 1 damage to each creature and player. So it can be a finishing move, because we have Dreadbore for 2, destroy target creature or planeswalker. Planeswalker's not going to regenerate, so it doesn't need to say that. So it's pretty good. When we have Ruinous Ultimatum for 7, destroy all non-land permanents your opponents control. So you have something like a Labyrinth Raptor on the field, it's a Nightmare Dinosaur. Menace, they weren't able to block it anyways. Whenever a creature you control with Menace becomes blocked, defending player sacrifice a creature blocking it. Wow, so it's even worse for them to block it. Creatures you control with Menace gets +1/+0 until the end of turn. Did other cards give Menace? They might have. But for sure, Teriel, Reckoner of Souls, is a 7-cost legendary creature angel with Flying Vigilance 4/7, so her toughness is usually higher because she has Vigilance Flying. Choose a creature card at random from target opponent's graveyard, put that card onto the battlefield under your control. You attack, then you tap it, and you steal one of their random creatures. It's pretty nice. Because we also have Balefire Leech, giving other red creatures you control +1/+1, and other white creatures you control +1/+1. So all those 1/1 white creature tokens are now 2/2 creature tokens. Whenever you cast a red spell, deals 3 damage to target player. Whenever you cast a white spell, you gain 3 life. So he just does all the things you need. And Unlicensed Disintegration will destroy target creature. If you control an artifact, it deals 3 damage to that creature's controller, kind of like a Searing Blaze effect. So you have a stipulation, deals an extra damage. And then we have Doom Foretold. I was not sure how this card was going to help because it costs 4, it's an enchantment, so that means it stays on the field. But it also says, at the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player sacrifices a non-land, non-token permanent. So, your turn, your opponent's turn, at the beginning of their upkeep, they sacrifice a card. If that player can't, they discard a card. They lose 2 life. You draw a card, you gain 2 life. You create a 2/2 white knight, creature token with vigilance, then you sacrifice Doom Foretold. So, you can't sacrifice tokens, but you can sacrifice other things. And when you do, it stays in play. But it's also for your opponents to sacrifice. And the moment they can't sacrifice it, then you get a 2/2 token. But I'm not sure it's the best, because now we have Tiana, Ship's Caretaker for 5. It's definitely the best because it's an Angel Artificer legendary creature. And it says, whenever an aura or equipment you control is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, you may return that card to its owner's hand at the beginning of the end step. Yeah, just protects all your artifacts and equipments that equip to creatures like Nahiri's Harbinger for 4. She's a legendary planeswalker. Discard a card. If you do, draw a card. Exile target enchantment, tapped artifact, or tapped creature for -2. And -8, search your library for an artifact or creature card, put it onto the battlefield. Shuffle your library. It gains haste, return it to your hand at the beginning of the next end step. So it brings out a card to attack, returns it to your hand. A nice opening effect for your Deafening Clarion, which can deal 3 damage to each creature, or creatures you control gain lifelink until the end of turn. Very, very nice to keep you in the game or wipe the board. Because we have Featherless, not Featherless, Feather the Redeemed, for 3 mana, legendary creature angel, 3/4, flying. When you cast an instant or sorcery that targets a creature you control, exile that card instead of putting it into your graveyard as it resolves. If you do, return it to your hand at the beginning of the next unstep. Probably a bunch of infinite combos with that. But really, we don't want to do anything that's too crazy. We just want players not to gain life anymore. Players can't gain life with Everlasting Torment. Damage can't be prevented. That's pretty powerful. And all damage as though it was Source had Wither. So everything's going to get -1/-1 counters now. And I think that's pretty useful. Because we're going to have, whenever a creature with -1/-1 counter on it dies, we draw a card. So the Scorpion God will help with that. For 5 mana, he's a 6/5 legendary creature. Pay 3 mana, 1 red, 1 black, 1 colorless, or any color, it doesn't matter. Put a -1/-1 counter on another target creature. When the Scorpion God dies, return it to its owner's hand at the beginning of the next end step. He just keeps coming back. And you remember all the searching for planes? Well, we're going to search for Emeria's Sky Ruin. Emeria enters the battlefield tapped. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 7 or more planes, you may return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield, and it taps, adding white to mana. Emeria being short for Emrakul. So we have a planes, second planes, third planes, fourth planes, fifth planes, sixth planes, seventh planes, eighth planes. Idyllic Grange. Idyllic Grange enters the battlefield tapped unless you control 3 or more other planes. Idyllic Grange enters the battlefield untapped. Put a +1/+1 counter on creature you control. Rakdos Canarium, land that returns to your hand. Another land, and it adds 2 mana. Rocky Tar Pit. Rocky Tar Pit enters the battlefield tapped. Crack it. Search for Swamp or Mountain. Put it onto the battlefield. Shuffle your library. You always need a command tower. Basic Swamp. Basic Mountain. Battlefield Forge. Need an Opal Palace because it's fucking +1/+1 counters, right? Ash Barrens. So it's like basic land cycling. Search for one of those lands you need. Like a swamp, that's a basic type. No, you can't basic land cycling for this. It has to be a basic land, not a basic land type. Well, that's pretty useful to know, because Temple of the False God's useful. Boris Garrison, the opposite of Rakdos Canarium. Detection Tower. Tap to add colorless, specifically colorless. Tap any color, tap it itself. Until the end of turn, until end of turn, your opponents and creatures your opponents control with hexproof can be targets of spells and or abilities as though they didn't have hexproof. Just hexproof though, not shroud or nothing. Gaves of Koilos, Forsaken Sanctuary, Temple of Malice is one of those Scrylands. Nomad Outpost, Terramorphic Expanse, Evolving Wild, same shit. Dragon Skull Summit, Shadowblood Ridge, Polluted Mire. Stuff. It's a whole bunch of paper. What was I talking about?